million to the parliament. The finance minister states that the government is set to spend only 1% of the total state expenses to politicians. And the finance minister affirms that the state revenue generated will exceed the anticipated amount in this year's state budget by year end.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to PSM News in English with me, Hafiz Abdul Sattar. And now the news in detail. Minister of Finance Musa Zamir submits the supplementary budget to cover state expenses worth a total of $332 million to the parliament. The budget includes $97.3 million is recurrent expenses and $227 million is capital expenditures.
Following the submission of the supplementary budget, Minister Zamir noted that this year's state budget was approved by the previous administration. The minister stated that the previous administration did not prepare the budget such that the economic reforms could be implemented. He added that the current administration has submitted the supplementary budget in accordance with legal requirements, taking into account upcoming projects and anticipated expenses. The supplementary budget was proposed as the state budget is insufficient to fulfill the visions of President Dr. Muhammad Muizzu and his administration. Contributing factors include expectations of increased time and costs for implementing reforms, higher than expected expenses for medical consumables, anticipated increased spending on indirect subsidies, and a rise in loans issued under the student loan scheme. Additionally, $129.7 million of the supplementary budget is allocated for carrying out Public Sector Investment Program PSIP projects without any halts. The supplementary budget consists of an additional $28.6 million for state-owned enterprises, additional $42.2 million for the contingency budget, $29.7 million for student loans, $13 million for medical consumables, $17 million to assist with medical treatment, $66.1 million for subsidies, and $1.5 million for salaries. The Ministry of Finance stated that the supplementary budget will be financed through project loans, the sale of treasury bills, and internal loans. Specifically, the government plans to secure $64 million from international sources and $194 million from internal sources. An additional $3.6 billion will be added to this year's state budget when the supplementary budget is passed. Last year, a supplementary budget of $421 million was approved to cover state expenses.
Minister of Finance Musa Zamir states that the government is set to spend only 1% of the total state expenses to politicians. He made the remarks while submitting the supplementary budget to the parliament. In his address, Minister Zamir stated that as several reform measures were talked about by the previous government for years, although no necessary action was taken to implement them. Therefore, the current government had to initiate efforts to implement these reforms, which resulted in delays beyond the planned amount of the budget. Furthermore, Minister Zamir shed light on President Dr. Muhammad Muizzu's efforts to reduce state expenses. The efforts include reducing expenditure on transportation and hosting ceremonies and events. And now we'll take a short break for Isha prayers. Stay tuned.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وبعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته وارزقنا شفاعته برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
حقوقنا ليست للبيع.
And the resumption of commercial activity.
ಹಫ್ತಾ ನಿಮಗೆಂದ ಆಯ್ರು ದುನಿಯೇಗ ಮಶ್ರಹುದ ಏತ ಕಮೆಂಗ್ ಹಿಂಗಾಗಂದೆ
ಹಲತ ಹದಾಕುರ ಮಿಸ್ ಎಕಿ ಫಹಾರು ಎಕಿ ಗೊತ್ತ ಕಿತಂಗ್ ಅಡುತನ್ನೆ ಇರುತ್ತೋ
ದುನಿಯೆಗೆ ಫೆಬ್ರವರಿಗ ಬೊಡೆತಿ ಏತ ನಿಮ್ಮುಂತಕೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ
ಲುಬ್ನಾನ್ಗ ಬೋರ್ಡರ್ ಆಗಾತುಗ ಯಹೂದಿನ್ ಗಾಯ್ ಕೊಫವಾ ತಫಾತಕಿ ಆಬಾದಿತಕು ಮೀಹು ಹುಸ್ಕುರನ್ ಜೈಫವಾನಿ
ತಹುಜೀಬಮುಂಗನ ದುನಿಯೆಗ ಮಿ ಮೌಲೂಮಾತ ಇಂಗು ಮುಹಿಮ್ಮು ಹಫ್ತಾಗೆ ದುನಿಯೆ ಹೊಣಿಹಿರು ದುವಹುಗೆರೆ 22 ಕಡಿ ಸುಮ್ಮಿನೆಟುಗ PSMNEWS
Welcome back to PSM News in English, and now we'll continue with the news. Minister of Finance Musa Zamir states that the budget allocated for projects under the Public Sector Investment Program PSIP in this year's state budget were not realistic, noting that the contract price of the projects exceed $2.3 billion.
Proposing the supplementary budget to the Parliament, Minister Zamir stated that the supplementary budget totaled $330.7 million due to the increase in expenses for projects, highlighting that an additional $28.6 million was allocated for state-owned enterprises. The minister explained that this amount was allocated to secure cash flow for the projects undertaken by the SOEs and for the recently established Development Bank of the Maldives. He stated that $129.7 million of the supplementary budget is allocated for carrying out PSIP projects without any halts. Furthermore, Minister Zamir noted that the previous administration contracted projects and made advance payments in 2023 while failing to consider the fiscal situation and maintain the sector's expenses at a sustainable level. The minister disclosed that the supplementary budget was proposed to secure funds for the projects included in this year's undervalued state budget. Additionally, Minister Zamir emphasized that the government aims to continue developmental projects without any halts and fulfilling the pledges made as well.
Minister of Finance Musa Zamir affirms that the state revenue generated will exceed the anticipated amount in the year's state budget by year-end. The remarks were made by the minister following the submission of the supplementary budget to the Parliament.
The supplementary budget, worth a total of $332 million, includes $97.3 million as recurrent expenses and $227 million as capital expenditures. The state budget allocated was worth $3.2 billion, with $2.2 billion anticipated to be received as donation, aid and revenue. Of these, donations valued at $1.8 billion has been received as of September 30th. Speaking at the Parliament, Minister Zamir expressed optimism in the state revenue increasing than the expected value by year-end through unexpected income and the measures implemented to boost the state revenue. The minister expects the government to receive an additional sum of $41.5 million from the total state revenue and from donations. Regarding the financial situation of the country, Minister Zamir stated that the negative impacts of not taking essential measures to reduce fiscal deficit for a long period of time included difficulties in securing loans and concessional periods and strain in the government's reserves. He urged the government to ensure the budget is allocated sustainably with the reforms being introduced. An additional $3.6 billion will be added to this year's state budget when the supplementary budget is passed. Last year, a supplementary budget of $421 million was approved to cover state expenses.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Abdullah Halil meets with senior delegates on the sidelines of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting 2024.
During the meetings, Minister Dr. Halil held discussions with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation and Gambians Abroad of the Gambia, Mamadou Tangara. The discussions between the two ministers primarily focused on enhancing bilateral cooperation and reinforcing the commitment to multilateral initiatives. Both leaders also realized the need for exerting collaborative efforts to address mutual concerns. Additionally, Minister Dr. Halil held discussions with Minister of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration of Ghana, Shirley Ayokor Botwir. The minister stated both Maldives and Ghana agreed to become more resilient to overcome the challenges faced by Commonwealth countries. Both ministers reaffirmed their commitment to fostering stronger collaboration and improving bilateral cooperation. Furthermore, Minister Dr. Halil held productive talks with Zambia's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mulambo Haimbe. During the discussions, Minister Dr. Halil noted that both nations face similar challenges. Both leaders agreed to collaborate and cooperate with other Commonwealth members and UN member states to overcome these challenges. During his meeting with high-level delegations, Minister Dr. Halil also met with Malta Jan Borg, the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign and European Affairs and Trade. The minister noted that the discussions centered on enhancing bilateral cooperation, expressing appreciation for Malta being a strong supporter of small states and SIDS within the Commonwealth. The highest level of delegation from the Maldives to attend the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting 2024 is Vice President Hussein Mohammad Latif. The meeting, which is held in Apia, Samoa, is slated to conclude on October 26th.
Chief Executive Officer of the State Trading Organization STO, Shimad Ibrahim, underscores the pivotal role accountants play in diversifying and promoting the economic development. Speaking at the ceremony held to appoint members to various committees of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of the Maldives, CA Maldives, Shimad highlighted the vital role accountants play in the economy. He urged accountants to take leadership and resolve challenges encountered by companies and further enhance the sector. Shimad stated that CA Maldives is responsible to provide assistance to the state-owned enterprises, SOEs, which are yet to submit the financial statements of 2022 and 2023. Meanwhile, CEO of CA Maldives, Dr. Muhammad Mahid Sharif, also emphasized the significance of accountants. He reaffirmed his commitment to facilitate the relevant needs to promote the sector. A total of 84 members were appointed to the 11 committees of CA Maldives. The institution expressed optimism that this initiative will assist in enhancing the sector. Male City Group of Hospitals reveals that a designated building for the 25-story cancer hospital will be developed on the land plot allocated next to Dharmawanta Hospital.
Speaking at a press conference, Chief Executive Officer, CEO of Male City Group of Hospitals, Ibrahim Abdurrazzaq Halim, stressed that medical facilities and the bed capacity of hospitals in Male were inadequate to provide efficient services to the increasing populace. He stated that the primary goal prioritized is to expand healthcare services within the Greater Male region by increasing the bed capacity. Male City Group of Hospitals stated that an additional 172 beds will be brought to service along with wards, emergency rooms and other essential healthcare services by year end. The government has been exerting several efforts to develop and enhance the health sector. Under these efforts, it has initiated the development of the cancer hospital. CEO Abdurrazzaq stated that the land has been allocated for the development, with the first phase of the project including the design and concept works being completed. Additionally, next year's state budget will include the details of the projects and the works of contractors as well. The government has initiated the necessary steps towards developing a fully equipped cancer hospital in the Maldives, with the aim of alleviating patient suffering and providing state-of-the-art cancer care domestically. It aims to complete this developmental initiative and commence operations during this tenure.
Boeing factory workers voted to reject a contract offer and continue a more than 5-week strike on Wednesday in a blow to investor and management hopes of a resolution to the acrimonious dispute.
Boeing factory workers voted to reject a contract offer and continue a more than 5-week strike on Wednesday in a blow to investor and management hopes of resolution to the acrimonious dispute. The vote was 64% in opposition to the deal, which offered a 35% rise in wages over 4 years.
Today, members voted to reject the company's latest offer by 64%. 64%. 64% against. Our members have stood together, united. Members, come from different backgrounds.
The union vote to push Boeing for better terms reflects years of resentment from workers who felt cheated by the company in talks a decade ago and deepens a financial crisis. Union leaders said they were ready to immediately resume negotiations with Boeing on the first new contract since 2014, when the company used the threat of moving production of the new version of the 777 out of the region to push through a deal that ended traditional pensions. More than 30,000 mechanics put down their tools in Boeing's West Coast factories on September 13th, halting productions of the best-selling 737 MAX and 767 and 777 wide-body programs. The rejection was the second time in a formal vote. The previous offer was rejected by 95% of workers voting last month, leading to the strike. The specter of quality crisis from a January mid-air panel blowout hangs over Boeing. The company in August named a new CEO, Kelly Ortberg, who has said the plan maker required a fundamental culture change.
Prime Minister Najib Mikati on Thursday told a press conference international support will be needed to show up and expand Lebanon's army and rebuild the country's destroyed infrastructure.
Mikati said the Lebanese government had decided to recruit more troops and could deploy 8,000 soldiers as part of a plan to implement a ceasefire and UN Security Council resolution, which calls for the army to be deployed in southern Lebanon.
The sequence of the stability equation is first, an immediate ceasefire. Second, full implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 1701. Third, deployment of 8,000 Lebanese Army Forces soldiers south of the Litani. Fourth, resume the diplomatic efforts to address disputes along the Blue Line in order to reach a deal that can secure long and sustainable stability in South Lebanon.
World powers are meeting in Paris on Thursday with the goal to provide urgent humanitarian aid to Lebanon, support to its security forces and push for a ceasefire. But with the US focused on its own efforts, diplomats said they expect little concrete progress. France has historical ties with Lebanon and has been working with Washington in trying to secure a ceasefire. But its influence has been limited since Israel launched a large-scale onslaught on Iran-backed Hezbollah in September that has seen thousands displaced and more than 2,000 people killed. Neither Israel, whose Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu criticized the initiative, nor Iran were invited to Thursday's conference.
Coach Eddie Jones promises his Japan team will challenge the All Blacks with a fast-paced game for the full 80 minutes when the sides meet at Yokohama's International Stadium on Saturday.
The Brave Blossoms have never beaten New Zealand in 5 previous attempts, but got as close as they ever have to an upset 2 years ago when they lost 38-31 in Tokyo.
We want to play like Japan from the first minute to the 80th minute of the game and not stop challenging New Zealand with our style of play. So the 23 we picked, we believe, can do the job for us. We've got 2 new caps coming in Opeti Helu and Matsunaga, and both of them have been very impressive in the lead up to the game. So I think they're our 18th and 19th new cap this season. So, it shows the transitional period we're in. But this game's not about transition, it's about performance, so we're looking forward to going.
Jones named a bench with a 5-3 split in favour of the forwards for what is likely to be a physical contest against the big but relatively inexperienced All Blacks pack named by Scott Robertson on Tuesday. Jones accepted that Japan would have to play without the ball for large parts of the game against the 3 times world champions and said they would need to be aggressive and connected in defence.
How many times have you seen New Zealand getting beaten in a game and then come back and win in the last 5 minutes of the game? So, this is the ultimate test. You've got to be able to do it for 80 minutes, the ball in place for 35 minutes. So you've got to play every one of those minutes of ball in play. And, that's what we've been preparing for. And I really feel the players are ready to play the best game that Japan's ever played against New Zealand. And that's the opportunity ahead of them.
A rare transcript of Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's The Little Prince, containing extensive handmade corrections by the French author and described by book dealers as a literary treasure, will soon go on sale for $1.25 million.
Considered the world's most translated book besides religious texts, the novella about a child who travels from planet to planet gaining wisdom was published at the height of World War II when Saint-Exupéry fought for the Allies in the French Air Force. London-based Peter Harrington Rare Book said that, bound in a worn, black cover, the French-language typescript of Le Petit Prince was written in New York during the author's exile from occupied France. It is one of the only 3 copies known in existence, with the other 2 sitting in the Harry Ransom Center in Texas and France's National Library. The typescript features what is thought to be the first written appearance of one of the book's most famous quotes. Sammy J., senior literature specialist at Peter Harrington, said that the quest for rare book dealers is to find editions that get to the heart of an author's creative process, especially in influential works such as The Little Prince.
To get any kind of creative material or for The Little Prince is extremely rare. As I said, signed or inscribed copies are very, very hard to come by, and anything like this is almost impossible because there's this minute window of time between when it was actually written and then when he died. So it's very special.
Besides the handwritten corrections, the typescript contains 2 pencil sketches by the author, including an early sketch for the book's final illustration of the Little Prince returning home. Accompanying the typescript is a cash check for a French Air Force uniform that Saint-Exupéry ordered before leaving New York to head back to the war. He never returned to New York. Saint-Exupéry died in 1944 when his plane disappeared during a military mission over the Mediterranean. The book, acquired by Peter Harrington after it recently came out of private hands, will be on sale at Abu Dhabi Arts.
And that's all we have for this hour. Thank you for watching. Wish you all a very pleasant time ahead.